Hi, I'm Bill Myers, and this is another one of my video tips of the week. In a previous production, I showed tips for better tips video, which is a video that showed you how to create these types of videos. In this video, I'm going to show you the steps to creating something like that. We're going to do that with Sony Vegas Movie Studio. Let's get started. First thing I've done is I've opened a new copy of Sony Vegas Movie Studio, and I brought in the media that I'm going to be using for this project. Now, one of the first things I want to do in this project is to pull the background up on the screen. That's what I've done right there. Now, since I won't be using the background audio, I want to delete that. But if I put my mouse on the audio track and press delete, it'll delete the audio. I don't want to do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and click the Ignore Event Grouping button. And then I can delete the audio, and I want to turn that button back off. Now I've got my video track on the screen. One of the things you may notice is down here in my preview window, my video track is letterboxed, which means it has black bars on the top and the bottom. And I don't want that. I want this to be a widescreen production. So to fix that, I'm going to go up to Project, come down to Properties. I'm going to select the project property that I want. For this one, I'm going to select High Definition 720-30p, and then click OK. And you notice down here that it now has widescreen just like I want it. Now, because I want this video to last about 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'm going to drag this out to about 1 minute 30, which is right about there. Now, if I play it, you'll see this is a nice motion loop background. Looks nice. Next thing I want to do is I want to bring up my audio track up behind it, and this is the audio track I've selected. I'm just going to bring it up on the timeline. You notice my audio track's a lot longer than the video track. That's real easy to fix. I just left click on it and drag it back to it matches the video length. And you notice the audio track here, the front has got some empty space. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to move that over to right where it starts and then move this over. I want both of these to fade in, so I'm just going to drag the fade in. And if we were to play it now, you'd hear that we have a background audio and the video. Okay, now what we want to do is add the text elements to it. And on the top track is where we're going to put our text. I'm going to put my mouse where I want to add my first text element. I'm going to right click and select Insert Text Media. And on the text media, I'm going to put whatever title I want for this project. And you can see as I type in up here, it shows up down here. Well, there are a couple of things I want to change. First thing I want to change is the font, so I highlight everything, and here's the font face, and I'm going to use a Tahoma, which is right there. And the font size 72 looks pretty good, and I'm going to go over to Effects and select Draw Shadow, and I want the shadow offset to be a little bit bigger. I want it to be about 70, so I'm going to set it there at 70. I'm going to do that for the X and Y offset. And then under Placement, I want to make sure that I select Center. It's going to put it right in the center of the screen. If we look at that in best preview mode, we get a really sharp look on our font, so it looks pretty nice. Now we just don't want the text to pop on the screen. We want it to fade in on the screen. We're going to do it like this to do a fade, about a 15 frame fade on both ends of it. And if we play the video now, you'll see what we've got. Okay, so far so good. Now we want to bring the tips in. I want to bring the tips in. I'm going to add another text element. So I'm going to select Insert Text Media. I'm going to put a number there, which is going to be the number 1 tip. I want the size to be much larger, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go in and make the size about 180. I want to make sure I set the font face to match the font face that I've already used, so I'm going to go down to Tahoma for that. If I want a larger number, I can choose that, which I like. You know what I don't like is I don't like the little dot beside it, so I'm going to get rid of that. Next thing we want to do is click Effects, and just like we did before, we want to select Draw Shadow. We want to put a shadow around our font. We want to make sure that that shadow is large enough that it can be seen here. So if you're using a larger font, we use a larger shadow. One of the things you might want to do on your number is to draw an outline on it to make it pop when it comes up on the screen. And you can select any color you want just by first putting a check mark and draw outline, and then selecting the color you want. And you can change the width of that outline just by doing this. Let's just stick with that. We like that. So now we've got a number on the screen, but we just don't want it to pop on the screen. We want it to zoom in. So it just popped on the screen. We want it to fly in, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a transition, come down here to select my transitions, and look for a 3D fly-in, which is right there. I'm going to drag it up on the screen, and put it right there. If I accept the default, it's going to look like this. And that's okay, but what I prefer is just a fast fly-in without any spins. And the way we do that is we right-click and select Transition Properties. And it shows it has an X rotation and a Y rotation. I'm going to set those to 0 and the Z rotation to 0 as well. Now, since I'm going to be using this several times over, I don't really want to be changing it every time. So I'm going to create a preset, fly-in tip number, and then click over here where the disk icon is and click Save Preset. Now let's see what that looks like. It comes in really nice. To come in faster, all we do is change the width of the transition. So if we run it now, it'll come in faster. Let's see what it looks like. There, that was nice. And we only want to leave it on the screen just for a little bit and then fade off. Let's play it. Nice. Okay, one of the other things you might want to do is add a sound effect to that coming on the screen. And in our media pool, I've got a sound effect called whip, and I'm going to drag it up on the audio screen. You won't be able to see it because I've got so many tracks here, so let's just make the track height a little bit less. I have an audio track down here, so we'll drag it onto that audio track. Because I have snapping on, it'll automatically align with the last effect. If we play it now, we'll see if it lines up right. Now let's mute our other background audio track. Pretty good, but it may not be in the right place. So let's turn off our snapping so we can move it around and move that over just a bit and play it. That's pretty good. Let's unmute our track and let's play the entire production and see what we have. That's pretty nice. We may want to lower the background audio sound. The way we do that is just use the volume on the background audio track. So we lower it down like that. We might want to raise the volume on our sound effect. We do it like that. Now the next thing we want to do is after we show the tip number is actually show the tip itself. We put our mouse right next to the tip. We select Insert Text Media and we type in our tip. So we've got our text typed in. We want to go in and change the font face of that. We go down to Tahoma again. We select the font size that looks good. We want to go in and click Effects. We want to draw a shadow. We want to make the shadow just a little bit larger. Generally, I try to make the shadow match the font size. So if the font size is 48, I'll make the shadow 48. And then while we're looking at this, we'll look at the placement. And generally, the placement is going to depend on how much text you're showing on a page. You might want to go up into the top left if you're using a lot of text on a page. And it'll automatically put it up there. Now notice this text is centered. You may not want it to be centered like that. And you can go over to your edit and click the alignment right there, and it'll align it to the left, or align it to the right, or align it to the center. Generally, I like it lined to the left like that. And if you like that look, if you're going to be using that over and over and over and over, you may want to save that as a preset. So we'll call this as Tip Details and click to save. Now that we have our tip details up there, what we may want to do is fade that in, just so it fades in just a little bit. I like to fade in about 11 to 15 frames and do the fade out. And then we'll play it to see how the timing works on that. Looks pretty nice. And the next thing we want to do is to put our second tip up there. Now that we've done all the work to create the presets and have everything the way we want, all we have to do now is use copy. So I'm going to copy that. The way I copy that is I put my mouse on it, right click, select copy, come over here where I want that tip number to appear, select paste, click OK. And now we go into edit text media, we change that 1 to a 2, and close, and now we have our second one up there. And notice when we play it, it'll pop up the 2 the same way we popped up the 1. So that makes it easy. Now if we want to put details, we do the same thing. We select it, we copy it, we put the detail where we want it, click paste, make sure we have the copy, and it pops up. We can do that through the entire production until we have all the things that we need, all the elements we need in the sequence that we want them. And then at the end of production, we'll make sure our audio lines up with our video track, We'll fade out the video track, we'll fade out the audio track at the same time, so it all fades out the same way. Now there's one other thing you might want to do. If you wanted to add an audio narration to all your tips, you can do that while you're still in the Sony Movie Studio. And the way you do that is you come down to an unused audio track, like this one right here, put your mouse at the start of that track, you click the arm for record button, and it shows you your sound level here. And then when you want to start narration, you click the record button to start your narration. And then the way the narration would work, as the elements on the screen became visible in your preview window down here, you would actually speak them out loud and record them and put them on this audio track down here. And when you're done, you'd have a pretty nice production. This is my final production. You can see that I have the title just like we talked about earlier. I have the tip coming in right there. This is the music background, and if I scroll down, you can see that this is the audio track where I actually recorded the narration. And if I play that, you'll hear it. Tips for better tips videos. You can see that creating these types of productions is fairly easy once you understand the little secret of putting the background video track up first, then putting up your audio track next, and then using text elements to show the text. To make this easier, I've saved this as a template and put it in the members area of my site. So if you remember my site, you can go and download this template, open it up in Sony Vegas Movie Studio, and have this entire production ready for you to go in and modify for your own tips. I'm Bill Myers. This has been another one of my video tips of the week. Find more like this at www.bmyers.com, and also find 101 more tips using Sony Vegas and Sony Vegas Movie Studio in my DVD called 101 Tips and Tricks for Sony Vegas Movie Studio. You can find that at my site as well as at Amazon.com.